And now I am joined on the phone. It's Nuala Donlon. How are you, Nuala?
Good morning, Paula. How are you?
I am good. All the better for speaking with you today. So Greyhound Action Island. I mean, you do amazing work, Nuala. You really do.
Thank you, Paula.
So we're talking today about it's shocking that there's still money being pumped into the Greyhound industry.
Yeah,
And 19 million has just been allocated.
that's right.
Like, what is going on in the minds of government? Do you know what I mean?
Well, Paula, the reality is that the law says they have to give this money to the greyhound industry. We have this bizarre situation in Ireland where we have an act passed in 2001 which mandates that originally all of the betting tax taken on off-course betting would be handed, on all sports, on all activities, would be handed back to horse and greyhound racing. Now, in recent months, we have learned, following the FAI report, that changed in the last number of years, that it's no longer the betting fence being ring-fenced, the betting tax being ring-fenced, but in fact what they do is they take that money out of the general exchequer, and it is pretty much equal to what the betting tax is every year.
It's crazy.
So money essentially is being taken out of general exchequer funds, handed to horse racing and greyhound racing, and then we learn a couple of days after the budget that the health minister was left short of several hundred million euros that he needed for the health budget. And whatever you think of the health budget and how health is administered in this country, if money is to be spent unwisely, I would prefer to take a chance that people might actually benefit from it rather than a small number of horse and greyhound racing, greyhound owners and trainers benefit from it. I'm probably not alone in that in the country, I would say.
But like, things change in 20 years. Do you know what I mean? Since this whole thing was passed, 20 odd years ago, why do you think it's not been updated? Is it kind of in their interest to keep it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the old boys network. I mean, especially the horse racing industry. And I'm not going to talk about horse racing really, because it's not an area I know a lot about. But I would imagine you have very wealthy people involved in horse racing, and they're very powerful, and they're very well connected. And greyhound racing then manages to get along on the coattails of horse racing, because they have to get, the division is 80-20. So, they have to get 20% and horse racing gets 80%. So it's worked out, I would imagine, in the benefit of horse racing, and then greyhound racing is tagged on that, because that's the law. Now, the Green Party went into the last election promising to defund greyhound racing. They didn't get that into the programme for government. One of their TDs, Nessa Horrigan, brought in a bill to decouple funding, which would at least separate the legislative imperative that the horse racing and greyhound racing industries are tied together for funding. And that has never been advanced. The Green Party have not done anything to advance that legislation, sadly. There's been a huge disappointment to people interested in animal welfare in this country.
Yeah.
Since they went into government, the Greens have handed over 74 million euros to greyhound racing, which is really disgraceful.
Yeah. It makes no sense. I mean, you'd think short numbers must have dropped that are going to, like, I've been to a few protests outside the Shelbourne track. It's usually on a Saturday evening, I think. But surely numbers have dropped. So you'd think, that what the people are saying, that we don't want this anymore. We don't want this.
The finals. We recently got the information on attendance at Shelbourne Park for the Derby finals and the Derby semi-finals, and the place was, when you took out the industry insiders, and when you took out the people who got in on freebies, the complimentary tickets, the place was close to 60% empty when you take in the total capacity of the stadium, Shelbourne Park. So when you take out all those things, there's a handful of people, and that was their flagship event. That's the big event in the greyhound racing calendar. Nobody's going there, but I mean, even the industry itself, it admits that it doesn't exist anymore, because for years they pretended they were an important cultural activity, and then therefore the government had to support them financially or whatever. They're not even saying that anymore, Paula. They have admitted at the moment that they're not creating anything in terms of a cultural product, that they admit they exist to create products for the betting industry, and that's what they do. And increasingly, the bits of money they're getting in, it's not from the gate, it's not from people going in, it's from betting streaming services, especially a British company, SIS streaming service, giving them money to run races so that people have something to bet on. I mean, that's really what it's for. That's what greyhound racing exists for now. So, 2 weeks ago, the week before the budget, the ESRI published a report which showed that over 30% of Irish people had gambling problems. They had some sort of unhealthy kind of relationship with gambling, and the government wheeled out the usual spokespersons to say how concerning this was and how worried they were about it. And then the following week, they hand 19 million over to greyhound racing.
Yeah.
The only reason is to create betting products. So it's hypocritical. It's just hypocritical.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at numbers, I mean, looking at your press releases, so last year alone, 122 dogs were killed while racing on tracks around the country. 287 were injured, some so badly that they had to be put down subsequently. And 4,000 dogs disappear every year because they're not fast enough to be racing dogs.
Minimum.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? When you look at numbers like that. It speaks for...
I mean, it's not what's happening to... If any other breed of dog was being used in this way and their lives being...
Oh, there'd be an outcry.
...put short, there would be total outcry, I mean, since 2014, 1,060 dogs have been killed on racetracks. And that's just during races. It doesn't take into account the official and unofficial trialling that goes on, where more dogs will obviously be dying. 3,050 injured since 2014. I mean, it's animal abuse on an industrial scale.
Really?
It really is.
Well, no, but it's legal. That's legal in inverted commas. Do you know what I mean? That's what makes it even harder to take.
I mean, it would be bad enough if it existed without support from the state, and you'd be looking for it to be banned on that basis. But to think that it only exists because it's getting financial support from the state, I mean, it's quite disgraceful. It really is.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about what that 19 million could do if it was pumped into the health service. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Into anything. I mean, you turn on your radio any day of the week and you hear people desperately in need. You hear parents, pulling their hair out because they can't get their children into the mental health service, CAM system. You hear parents desperately waiting for scoliosis operations for their children. I mean, there are so many essential public services in this country that are totally underfunded.
Yeah, it makes no sense, does it? It makes absolutely no sense to...
It makes no sense. Now,
it's money that we're paying as taxpayers, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's coming out of general exchequer funds. The argument they would put forward is that this gives a return to the economy. Well, it doesn't, actually. They commissioned Jim Power Economics to do a report some years ago. And we've had the Preferred Results Company look at that report, and it's a hugely flawed report. They include coursing greyhounds, they include greyhounds racing in Northern Ireland. It's hard to figure out how they create benefit for the Republic of Ireland economy, and why are coursing greyhounds included in a study which is supposed to look at the value of greyhound racing to the Irish economy. There are also other major mistakes in that report, such as leaving dogs in the racing pool for far longer than they are. I mean, everything is done to inflate the value to the Irish economy. And this is what's wheeled out every year to justify the budgetary allocation,
We're a nation of animal lovers. That's the irony of it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we love some animals, and we,
Yes. I know what you mean.
In fact, in Irish, in the Department of Agriculture doesn't regard greyhounds as dogs; they regard them as farm animals.
Oh my God.
Now we have asked the Minister for Agriculture why greyhounds are called farm animals, and he has completely fudged and refused to answer. And the answer, as far as we can ascertain, is because they have to be called farm animals to get a grant through the Department of Agriculture. I mean, that's the...
Well, surely collies and sheepdogs and all that kind of stuff, they're farm animals as well, but they're not called... I'm sure they're not called farm animals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you see, there isn't a nice little activity built around them.
Exactly.
Certain people from prize money and fees given for training. And I mean, what a lot of people don't realise as well is that people who own racing greyhounds have to register the first 7 major milestones in the dog's life. There's all these registrations that have to go on, and they have to do that with the Irish Coursing Club. This is the body now that runs hare coursing, the activity where they capture wild hares, put them into a field and set dogs on them. And greyhound racing owners in this country pay over just short of €1 million every year to the Irish Coursing Club from registering their racing greyhounds. And if they didn't do that, it's quite likely that coursing couldn't continue to exist. That's a huge income stream for coursing. So in supporting, when the state supports greyhound racing by publicly funding it, it is indirectly funding hare coursing and keeping it going. They're two sides of the same coin. And I think a lot of Irish taxpayers would have a problem with that if they knew it as well.
Yeah, I think we need a bit more education. People need to be a bit more educated, don't they, about, Yeah,
people don't know. When I tell people this, they cannot believe it. They just cannot believe it. But another interesting point, Paula, is that if a TD, for example, owns shares in any company or any activity which they are likely to benefit from if they make decisions in Donlon which financially, advantage that company, they have to declare ownership of those shares in the Register of Members' Interests in Donlon. Interestingly enough, they don't have to declare ownership or part ownership of a racing greyhound or a racehorse unless that animal wins, I think something like €2,600 a year in prize money. Yeah, so there's a clear conflict of interest there, and we have called, and I have called in the most recent press release, for the ethics legislation to be amended so that any TD who has anything to do with a racing greyhound or a racehorse must declare that automatically in the Register of Members' Interests so that we know when they vote through this money that there is a possibility they will benefit financially from the decisions they've made. I mean, that should be fairly basic, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of like, why would they not anyway? Unless they've got something to hide. Why are they not saying, like, this is what I've got, this is what I'm doing?
Well, I think
covert,
the more than their interest in any other activity, and remember, greyhounds and horse racing is called an industry. So, I mean, the more than their interest or their possible benefit, the possibility they might benefit from any other industry, I really don't know why they don't have to declare that so that the taxpayer can see it's transparent and we can see what's going on. And we know that several TDs are actively involved and active greyhound owners.
Yeah.
So there is a clear conflict of interest there, and it's not just the fact that they own greyhounds or they're involved in horse racing or whatever. That's they're part of this network. That's why those two industries, wield such influence with politicians, because some of the politicians are directly involved in those activities.
Yeah.
So it stands to reason that they would have their pals involved, and the pals would be saying, "Come on, we need the money, give us the money," or whatever. So it's all about power and access to power,
Yeah, so, I mean, if there's anyone listening today and they're kind of thinking, like, this is atrocious, what can I do? How can I do my bit? What can I do to help?
Well, we've kind of stopped asking people not to go greyhound racing because the reality is very few do anymore anyway. So that battle has been won. There's nobody going to the greyhound track pretty much anymore. So what they need to do now is they need to start lobbying their local TDs, and they need to start lobbying TDs from all parties. Every single party. The Social Democrats seem to be very committed to stopping the funding of greyhound racing, and they introduced a bill a few years ago, an opposition bill. It didn't get anywhere. They need just keep this up. I know it's not top of everybody's list of priorities when it comes to elections and manifestos or whatever. Yeah. But even if people don't care about animals and their welfare, they should care about the services being provided to them. And every cent that goes to greyhound racing is money that's not given to public services.
Well, how their money is being spent. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is our money.
Yeah, exactly.
It is our money, know. So I would urge everybody, Paula, to lobby their TDs to keep this uppermost in their mind and just let them know that this is not acceptable.
Yeah. You know? Especially in the run up to Christmas, we hear all these like Christmas work nights out and all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely,
just don't do it.
Yeah,
again,
a dramatic decline in the number of workplaces going to Christmas parties and greyhound stadiums. But obviously, we would urge everybody now who may be in the process or thinking about planning Christmas events, please don't go to a greyhound track. There are many other venues where no animal will suffer or die, so that people can go and have a few drinks and a meal in a restaurant. There's lots of alternatives available.
Yeah.
And no dog should have to die for our entertainment or for people to bet on us.
No, 100%. Thanks so much for chatting with me today, Nuala. It's a pleasure as always
for covering it, Paula.
to touch base with you and see what's going on. But yeah, anything we can do to stop this, it's barbaric at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, if even one person listening today wants to get involved, please, go on and get involved. Contact any of the organisations that are involved in campaigning against this. And there's also another organisation called Ban Blood Sports, which is doing tremendous work on this. I know there is Bernie Wright from the Alliance for Animal Rights organises regular demonstrations outside Shelbourne Park as well. So go along to those on Saturday evenings around 6 o'clock, and get active, because that's the only way we're going to stop it. If we stay quiet, it'll never stop.
Yeah, no, as I said, I've been up there on some of the Saturday evenings, and there's such a great vibe up there. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's so passionate. Everyone's so passionate about
they're amazing. They're amazing how they've kept it up for so long, And they would tell you straight, but Bernie would tell you herself that she doesn't know how they make enough money to pay the electricity bills. There's so many people going in, to Shelbourne Park. But they're going in because the government is giving the money. Yeah. And that's precisely why they're going in. That's precisely why it still exists. So we have to stop that money.
Yeah.
And when we stop that money, we stop greyhound racing. And when we stop greyhound racing, we stop hare coursing. So the prize is big,
Yeah, no, as I said, Nuala, you're doing incredible work, and keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully one day we'll get there.
And thanks for it.
Thank you so much, right?
Thank you, Paula.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.